Ambassador David Harrison felt his stomach drop as the alien translator finished speaking. The massive chamber around him buzzed with hundreds of different alien voices, all saying the same thing. Every single species in the galaxy had just voted to make Earth their slave planet. The humans are too dangerous, announced the council leader, a tall blue creature with too many arms. They fight too much. They ask too many questions. We cannot allow them to roam free in our peaceful galaxy. David looked around desperately. Giant insect-like beings clicked their approval. Floating jellyfish creatures pulsed with agreement. Even the small, seemingly harmless rabbit-like aliens nodded their fuzzy heads. 847 different species, and not one of them had voted to protect humanity. You have 30 days to prepare your world, the council leader continued. The hegemony will arrive to begin the enslavement process. Your people will work in our mines, build our ships, and serve our colonies. Perhaps in a few thousand years, if you prove yourselves worthy, we might grant you limited freedoms. The other human diplomat, Lieutenant Jenny Cole, whispered urgently into her communicator. Earth Command, you copy? The vote failed. Repeat, the vote failed completely. They're coming for us. Back on Earth, the emergency meeting had already begun before the official word arrived. General Robert Kane sat at the head of a long table in a bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Around him sat the most dangerous people humanity had ever produced. Admiral Jessica Brooks commanded the world's most advanced submarines. Colonel Tom Anderson had spent 20 years perfecting urban warfare tactics. Director Emily Walsh knew more about breaking enemy communications than anyone alive. Dr. Alan Foster could turn a toaster into a weapon if given enough time and wire. Conventional warfare won't work, Kane said bluntly as he read the intelligence reports. Their shields can stop our biggest nuclear missiles like their rubber balls. Their energy weapons can slice through our best armor like tissue paper. Then we don't fight conventionally, Anderson replied with a cold smile. We've been fighting unconventional wars for centuries. Time to show these aliens what guerrilla warfare really looks like. Brooks pulled up holographic displays of the alien fleet positions. They're positioning themselves over major population centers. Classic occupation strategy. They expect us to surrender when they demonstrate their superior firepower. How long do we have? Walsh asked. 30 days, Kane replied. 30 days to prepare for a war against technology we barely understand, fought by enemies who think we're primitive savages. Dr. Foster laughed quietly. Primitive savages who split the atom, mapped the human genome, and figured out how to make machines think. I'd say they're in for a surprise. Kane stood up and walked to the massive world map covering one wall. Red pins marked every major city, military base, and strategic resource on Earth. They think they're conquering a planet of helpless farmers. What they don't realize is that humans have been preparing for exactly this kind of fight our entire history. Every war we've ever fought has taught us something, Anderson added. The Romans taught us discipline. The Vikings taught us mobility. World War II taught us industrial warfare. Vietnam taught us that a smaller force can defeat a larger one if they're willing to pay the price. And now, Kane continued, we're going to teach the galaxy why Earth is the only planet that produced a species crazy enough to strap themselves to control explosions just to see what's on the other side of the sky. The room fell silent as the weight of their situation settled in. They were about to fight a war against impossible odds, using weapons their enemies considered toys, defending a planet their enemies thought was already beaten. Orders, sir? Brooks asked quietly. Kane turned back to his team. These weren't just military officers anymore. They were the last hope of human freedom, the final guardians of everything their species had ever built or dreamed of building. Begin Operation Prometheus, he said. Every able-bodied human disappears into the underground networks within 48 hours. Military assets are to be hidden, not destroyed. Civilian infrastructure is to be abandoned, not defended. When they arrive, they'll find empty cities and silent forests. And then, Walsh prompted. Kane's smile was the kind that had once made Roman legions nervous and convinced Nazi generals they'd made a terrible mistake. Then we show them why humans are the only species in the galaxy that evolved from persistence hunters. We don't give up. We don't surrender. And we never, ever stop coming. The war for Earth's freedom was about to begin, and humanity's enemies had no idea what they'd just awakened. The alien ships arrived exactly 30 days later. Just as promised, General Victor Reed of the Hegemony forces watched through his command ship's viewing screen as Earth grew larger. He'd conquered 47 worlds in his career, and this primitive planet would be number 48. Deploy the suppression fields. He ordered his crew, full-spectrum electromagnetic pulse. Disable their communications, their transportation, their weapon systems. Everything. The pulse swept across Earth like an invisible wave. Car engines died. Cell phones went black. Military bases fell silent. Even the most advanced human technology simply stopped working. Excellent, Reed smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Begin landing operations. Target all major population centers. New York, London, Tokyo, Delhi. The humans will surrender once they see our superior firepower. Captain Lisa Hayes led the first landing party into downtown Manhattan. Her soldiers marched in perfect formation, their energy weapons charged and ready. The massive alien transports had landed in Central Park, crushing trees and monuments under their weight. But something was wrong. The streets were empty, not evacuated, empty, where you could see signs of panic and rush departure. Just empty, like everyone had simply vanished into thin air. "Where are they?" muttered Sergeant Dale Murphy, scanning the silent skyscrapers with his enhanced sensors. 8 million humans lived in the city. They didn't just disappear. Hayes checked her readings again. No heat signatures. No movement. No electromagnetic emissions. It was like stepping into a ghost town, except the coffee shops still had fresh pastries in their windows and the traffic lights were still trying to work despite the electromagnetic pulse. "Command! This is Landing Team Alpha." Hayes reported into her communicator. "We have a problem. The humans are gone." Similar reports flooded in from around the globe. London streets were empty except for a few stray cats. Tokyo's millions had vanished without a trace. Paris, Berlin, Sydney. Every major city on Earth had become a silent monument to absent humanity. "This is impossible." Reed snarled from his command center. 12 billion humans don't just disappear. Search every building. Check every underground tunnel. They have to be somewhere. That's when the real problem started. Corporal Jack Turner was checking his equipment 3 days into the occupation when his energy rifle simply stopped working. Not damaged, not broken, just dead. When the tech specialists examined it, they found that someone had rewired the power coupling during the night. How did they get close enough to sabotage it? Turner asked the squad leader. We had sensors monitoring a 5-block radius. Nobody had an answer. On day 5, an entire supply convoy disappeared between London and Birmingham. 20 vehicles carrying enough food and ammunition to supply a regiment for a month, plus 47 hegemony soldiers, just vanished on a straight highway with clear weather and perfect visibility. The convoy was found 3 days later at the bottom of a lake that hadn't existed on any of their maps. The vehicles were stripped of everything useful, and the soldiers were alive but unconscious, with no memory of what had happened to them. "They're ghosts," whispered Private Kelly Wright to her bunkmate that night. "The humans have turned into actual ghosts." But Dr. Helen Foster, monitoring hegemony communications from a hidden bunker in Colorado, knew better. The humans hadn't become ghosts. They'd become something much more dangerous. They'd become invisible. Every subway tunnel, every abandoned building, every cave system, every forgotten bunker from the Cold War, she explained to her team. "We've turned the entire planet into our base of operations. Above ground, the hegemony controlled empty cities. Below ground, humanity had built the largest resistance network in galactic history. Old mining tunnels connected to subway systems. Abandoned shopping malls became hidden command centers. Storm drains became supply routes. Commander Patricia Hayes, formerly of the U.S. Marines, coordinated operations from beneath the ruins of Detroit. "The aliens are used to fighting in open space," she explained to her cell leaders. "They think in terms of fleets and formations. They've never fought an enemy that could hide inside the terrain itself." The hegemony's troubles multiplied daily. Equipment failures skyrocketed. Soldiers reported feeling watched from empty buildings. Supply lines became increasingly unreliable. What should have been a simple occupation was turning into a nightmare of constant small disasters. "It's like the planet itself is fighting us," reported Captain Brandon Clark from his position in former downtown Seattle. "Every day something else goes wrong. Weapons malfunction. Vehicles break down. Communications get scrambled." General Reed studied the casualty reports with growing concern. In 6 weeks of occupation, he'd lost more soldiers to accidents, equipment failures, and mysterious disappearances than in his last 5 planetary conquests combined. What Reed didn't understand was that he wasn't fighting a conventional enemy anymore. He was fighting 10,000 years of human experience in making life difficult for occupying armies. Every lesson learned by resistance fighters throughout history was being applied on a global scale. The humans had turned their entire planet into a trap, and the hegemony had walked right into it. Dr. Alan Foster crouched in the abandoned subway tunnel beneath Chicago, surrounded by pieces of alien technology that glowed with an eerie blue light. His makeshift laboratory looked like something from a mad scientist's dream, with human electronics jury-rigged to alien power cells, and captured hegemony weapons stripped down to their basic components. "The energy matrix is actually quite simple once you understand the principle," he explained to Colonel Patricia Hayes, who watched nervously as he connected a car battery to what used to be an alien plasma rifle. "Their technology is advanced, but it follows the same physical laws as ours." The weapon hummed to life, its barrel glowing with the same deadly energy that had once been used against human forces. Foster smiled and handed it to Hayes. "Congratulations, Colonel. You're now holding the first human-built energy weapon in history." But Foster wasn't the only one making breakthroughs. In hidden workshops around the globe, human engineers were performing miracles of reverse engineering. A former NASA technician in Houston figured out how to make alien gravity generators work with Earth's power grid. A computer programmer in Seoul cracked the hegemony's communication encryption using nothing but a laptop and pure stubbornness. 3 months after the occupation began, Captain James Wright received orders that would have been impossible to imagine a year earlier. His mission wasn't on Earth at all. It was a hegemony-supplied depot orbiting Jupiter's moon Europa. "How exactly are we supposed to get there?" asked Lieutenant Rachel Price, Wright's second-in-command, as she studied the mission briefings in their underground command center. Wright grinned and pointed toward the ceiling. With that, above them sat what had once been a hegemony transport ship. It had been captured during a supply run gone wrong, then completely rebuilt by human engineers who'd learned to read alien technical manuals through trial and error. The hull still bore hegemony markings, but the inside was now a hybrid of human ingenuity and alien technology. "The plan is simple," Wright explained to his team of 12 volunteers, all former Special Forces operators who'd adapted surprisingly well to space-based guerrilla warfare. "We dock with the station, download everything in their computers, steal whatever supplies we can carry, and plant some surprises for their next resupply mission." The raid on Europa Station went perfectly. Too perfectly, according to the hegemony officials who later reviewed the security footage. The humans moved to the facility like they'd been born in zero gravity, bypassing security systems that should have stopped them cold, accessing computer networks that were supposed to be impenetrable. What the aliens didn't realize was that humans had been dreaming about space warfare for centuries. Every science fiction movie, every military simulation, every teenage fantasy about fighting aliens had prepared humanity for exactly this moment. Within 6 months, human raids were being reported across 3 star systems. A mining operation on Kepler. 442b lost 2 months' production when humans infiltrated their computer systems and turned their own mining equipment against them. A hegemony fleet repair facility near Alpha Centauri woke up to find half their ships missing, and the other half reprogrammed to play human music at maximum volume. In the Galactic Council chambers, emergency sessions were now a daily occurrence. Representative Helen Carter, speaking for the Outer Colonies Defense Force, delivered increasingly desperate reports. "They're not just resisting anymore," she told the assembled delegates. "They're expanding. Every ship we lose makes their fleet stronger. Every base they raid gives them more technology to reverse engineer." Council Prime Veltar, who'd been so confident during the initial vote to enslave Earth, now look haggard and worried. How is this possible? Their most advanced weapons were chemical rockets. They barely had space travel. But Intelligence Director Catherine Shaw had been studying human tactics, and what she learned kept her awake at night. They're not fighting like any species we've encountered. Most civilized races develop technology to make life easier. Humans develop technology to kill each other more efficiently. She brought up holographic displays, showing human military history. In just the last century, they invented aerial bombing, submarine warfare, guided missiles, nuclear weapons, satellite surveillance, cyber warfare, and stealth technology, all while fighting each other. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Every war they've fought has been practice, Shaw continued. They've spent their entire history preparing for exactly the scenario, even though they didn't know it was coming. On Earth, General Kane received reports from human cells operating across the galaxy. What had started as a desperate defense of humanity's homeworld had evolved into something unprecedented in galactic history. A species that had turned interstellar warfare into an art form within a single year. Phase 3 is complete, reported Admiral Brooks from her flagship, now a massive hybrid vessel that looked like no ship in galactic history. All major hegemony supply lines have been disrupted. Their occupation forces are effectively cut off from reinforcement. Kane nodded grimly. Begin Phase 4. It's time to show them what 10,000 years of human warfare experience can accomplish when we stop holding back. The galaxy was about to learn why Earth was the only planet that had produced a species capable of turning survival into an offensive strategy. Dr. Margaret Stevens walked into the Galactic Council chambers with her hands cupped behind her back, but her head held high. She'd volunteered for this mission, knowing it might be a one-way trip. The massive alien assembly hall buzzed with hundreds of different languages as representatives from across the galaxy stare at her with a mixture of curiosity and fear. She was the first human they'd managed to capture in 8 months of trying. "So this is what a human looks like," muttered Council Prime Veltar, his 4 eyes studying her like she was some dangerous animal. "Smaller than I expected. How are creatures like this defeating our most advanced military forces?" Stephen smiled calmly. "That's exactly what I came here to explain. You see, you've made a fundamental error in understanding what humanity actually is." The chamber erupted in chittering, clicking, and various alien sounds of disbelief. A floating jellyfish-like creature pulsed angrily. "Error? We are the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Our technology is thousands of years ahead of yours." "Your technology is impressive," Stevens agreed. "But technology isn't everything. May I show you something?" Without waiting for permission, she activated the small holographic projector they'd allowed her to bring. Images of Earth appeared in the center of the chamber, but not the peaceful blue marble most species expected to see. Instead, they saw hurricanes that could level entire cities, volcanic eruptions that blotted out the sun for years, massive earthquakes that split continents, ice ages that turned the planet into a frozen wasteland for millions of years. "This is our home," Stephen said quietly. "For 4 billion years, Earth has been trying to kill everything that lives on it. Asteroid impacts, mass extinctions, supervolcano eruptions, climate changes so extreme they wiped out entire ecosystems. The alien representatives shifted uncomfortably. Their own worlds were garden paradises compared to the hellscape Stevens was showing them. But the real fun starts when you look at the other life forms we shared our planet with," Stevens continued, changing the holographic display. Now they saw massive predators with teeth the size of bananas, giant lizards that ruled the planet for millions of years, creatures that could crush cars with their jaws or swallow a human whole, poisonous everything, venomous everything, animals that existed solely to kill and eat other animals. And somehow, Stevens said with growing confidence, one small primate species not only survived all of this, but became the dominant life form on the entire planet. Would you like to know how? The chamber had fallen completely silent. Even the translator devices seemed to be struggling to keep up with the implications of what they were hearing. "We became the most dangerous thing on our planet," Stevens explained. not through claws or fangs or venom, but through our minds. We learn to work together in groups. We learn to make tools. We learn to use fire. And most importantly, we learn that the best defense is often a very, very good offense. Dr. Helen Carter, monitoring the transmission from her hidden base on Earth, smiled grimly as she watched the alien faces in the council chamber. They were finally beginning to understand what they'd stumbled into. Every other species in this galaxy evolved on what we would consider paradise worlds. Stevens continued. Stable climates, abundant food, few natural predators. You develop technology to make comfortable lives even more comfortable. She gestured images of human cities, human wars, human achievements built on a foundation of constant struggle. We develop technology to survive. Everything we've ever built, every advancement we've ever made, has been driven by the simple need to not die. And after 10,000 years of civilization, we've gotten very good at making sure other things die instead of us. Admiral Benjamin Clark, commanding the human fleet from his position near Mars, received the transmission and felt a surge of pride. Stevens was doing exactly what they'd hoped. She was making the aliens understand that they hadn't captured a primitive species to enslave. They'd awakened something that had been bred for warfare by the most hostile environment in the known galaxy. Your ancestors feared the dark, Stevens told the assembled representatives, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. Mine learned to hunt in it. Your species developed philosophy and art when life became easy. Mine developed better ways to kill our enemies when life was impossible. The holographic display now showed human military history. Ancient spears and shields, medieval catapults and crossbows, gunpowder weapons, tanks and aircraft, nuclear weapons, all of it developed by a species that had never known true peace. You made the mistake of thinking we were sheep, Stevens concluded. What you actually did was corner a pack of wolves and threaten their cubs. Council Prime Veltar's voice shook as he finally spoke. What do you want from us? Stevens' smile was the same expression her ancestors had worn when they'd stood at the top of Earth's food chain, looking down at everything else that lived on their deadly planet. We want you to understand that you started a fight with the wrong species. And now you're going to learn why humans are the only creatures in the galaxy that evolved from predators who hunted megafauna for sport. The revelation was complete. The galaxy finally understood what humanity was, and why their attempted enslavement had been doomed from the very beginning. Council Prime Veltar's hands trembled as he activated the emergency transmission system. Around him, the once proud Galactic Council chamber looked like a disaster zone. Representatives from hundreds of worlds huddled together in small groups, their faces showing pure terror. Some were openly weeping. Others sat in stunned silence, staring at the tactical displays that showed human fleets positioned throughout their territories. This is Council Prime Veltar of the Galactic Federation, he began, his voice cracking with desperation. We are transmitting on all frequencies to the human leadership on Earth. We surrender. Complete and unconditional surrender. The words felt like poison in his mouth. Never in galactic history had the Council been forced to surrender to anyone, let alone a species they tried to enslave just 2 years earlier. President Jennifer Martinez received the transmission in the White House Situation Room. Though the building looked nothing like it had before the war, the walls were now covered with holographic displays showing human fleet positions across 3 dozen star systems. Advanced alien technology hummed quietly in every corner, all of it reverse-engineered and improved by human scientists who'd learned to think in ways no galactic species had ever imagined. Around the table sat the people who'd transformed humanity from victims into the galaxy's new dominant force. General Robert Kane bore fresh scars from the ground campaign on Rigel 7. Admiral Jessica Brooks commanded a fleet that now included ships from 17 different alien civilizations, all rebuilt with human modifications that made them faster, stronger, and deadlier than their original designers had ever intended. Status report. Martinez said quietly, her eyes never leaving the pleading face of the Council Prime on the main screen. We've liberated 63 worlds in the past 6 months, reported Secretary of Defense William Hayes. The hegemony's military capability has been completely dismantled. Their slave labor camps have been shut down and the prisoners freed. Most of the liberated populations have asked to join our alliance. Dr. Foster, now head of the newly formed Department of Xenotechnology, pulled up holographic displays showing the scope of human expansion. Our hybrid technology program is exceeding all projections. We've successfully integrated propulsion systems from 12 different species, weapon systems from 8 others, and communication technology from basically everyone. On the screen, Council Prime Veltar continued his desperate plea. We acknowledge our terrible mistake. Humanity deserves freedom, recognition, full membership in galactic society. We offer you leadership of the Galactic Council. You can have anything you want, just please stop. What he was really begging them to stop was a complete transformation of galactic civilization that humans had unleashed. It wasn't just military conquest, though human fleets had proven unstoppable against alien forces designed for ceremonial conflicts rather than real warfare. It was something far more revolutionary. Colonel Patricia Hayes, now commanding the Liberation Forces, had discovered something that shocked even her. Most alien species in the galaxy were living under various forms of oppression. The peaceful galactic civilization was actually a complex hierarchy where stronger species dominated weaker ones through economic control, technological dependence, and subtle forms of slavery. Every world we've liberated tells the same story. Hayes reported from her flagship. The galaxy isn't peaceful because everyone gets along. It's quiet because everyone's too afraid to fight back. Until now, the humans had done something unprecedented. They'd shown enslaved populations across the galaxy that their oppressors could be beaten. Rebellion was spreading like wildfire through systems that had been quiet for thousands of years. The Keth Mori uprising succeeded this morning, reported Intelligence Director Catherine Walsh. That's the 15th slave revolt this month. They're using tactics we taught them, weapons we helped them build. Martinez stood and walked a massive window overlooking Washington, D.C. The city bustled with activity as humans and dozens of alien species worked together on projects that would have been impossible just 2 years earlier. Former slaves had become citizens. Former enemies had become allies. The American flag now flew alongside banners from worlds most humans couldn't even pronounce. "Open a channel," she ordered. The response she gave would be remembered throughout galactic history. When Martinez spoke, her voice was calm but carried the weight of a species that had just proven they were the most dangerous thing the galaxy had ever produced. "Council Prime Veltar," she began. 2 years ago, your people voted unanimously to enslave my species. You called us primitive. You said we were too dangerous to be allowed freedom in your peaceful galaxy. The alien leader flinched visibly. You were right about one thing. Martinez continued. We are dangerous, but not in the way you thought. We're dangerous to tyrants. We're dangerous to oppressors. We're dangerous to anyone who thinks they can control others through fear and violence. She paused, letting her words sink in across the hundreds of worlds now listening to the transmission. We never wanted to rule your galaxy. We just wanted to be left alone. But since you showed us how your civilization really works, we decided it needs new management. The age of species enslaving other species is over. The age of the strong bullying the weak is finished. Martinez smiled, and it was the same expression humans had worn when they first looked up at the stars and decided they belonged there. Welcome to the new galactic order, one where freedom is negotiable and predators protect the innocent instead of hunting them. The galaxy would never be the same.